right, so we are back. Another week football, Great American Youth. This is week 10, I guess. Or we're going into week 10 or 11
We
now, and
going into week 10.
going into week 10, and this is a statement week, big week. We're gonna go into the standings, into the results
Massive.
from last week. It's a lot of the league is really starting to shape out in the next week or two. We're gonna be off for Thanksgiving, so we're gonna probably not see you for a few weeks, but this week in particular is gonna be a huge one. So let's see let's get into NFL news this week, and then we'll get into what happened in fantasy.
Yeah. Start off with Chiefs Dolphins. I mean, everyone thought this would be a shootout, and it really wasn't.
I
I mean,
know.
Chiefs got out to 21-0 lead at half, and they pretty much won with that. I think it was like 21-14 final, something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, and the Tyreek fumble 6 was pretty much the game winner for the Chiefs. That's kind of I think I put that photo there on purpose. I mean, like that decided the game right there. It's there's not much to it. I mean, Tyreek was pretty much shut down. The Chiefs' defense is pretty legit, I will say.
Yeah, no, it was just interesting to see. I mean, that game, like you said, everyone thought it was going to be battle of the offenses, and it ended up being the exact opposite, and the Chiefs scraped their way through. Taylor Swift was not present. We're going to get into that later, but we were just wrong on a lot of fronts predicting that game last week, and I think a lot of people probably were as well. Another person who surprised a lot of people, Josh Dobbs. He didn't even start. It was Jaron Hall, rookie out of BYU, who started for the Vikings. He got a concussion. Dobbs comes in. Didn't he? I think he took a safety, like in one of his first plays.
Right away.
Yeah, like
And I was
immediately,
oh God.
went out, took a safety.
He
and
came in
then
on Tuesday. That's the important thing
Exactly.
to know. He got traded there on Tuesday.
Took didn't take snaps with the offense, was practice, taking his first snaps on the sideline, and then during that game with those players, and put up a crazy performance. I feel like in that one, what he did last week was worth the trade already. That one performance, and shows the Vikings that they have a real shot at making the playoffs this year. Dobbs did well with the Cardinals. It's not like he was bad. Just Kyler, obviously was going to start when he was healthy, and I feel like a trade that, in hindsight, we looked at it kind of as a middling, what are the Vikings doing? It's not really the best move they could have made, but it's a pretty good move. And with Justin Jefferson on the way
Pretty
back.
good start.
Yeah, exactly. Great start. Justin Jefferson activated from IR. He's going to be coming back probably not this week, but next week or the week after.
Big.
The Vikings, still a sneaky team. So something to keep an eye out for going forward. In Atlanta, just be in Atlanta there. Not too much to talk about, I feel like, at this point this year. Bijan, I think, is the one thing. He's been underwhelming the last few weeks, and kind of interesting how the last few big athletes Atlanta has gotten, Bijan and Kyle Pitts, they've ended up doing them worse, I guess, just with their usage, not really using them to their full potential in the games.
And then final story of the week. I mean, there's a lot we could have chosen here, like the Eagles beating the Cowboys, but I mean, I think this was the most significant game, possibly of the whole week 9 slate. But the Bills losing to the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bengals are truly back. I think they proved that there. They beat the 49ers and Bills in back-to-back games. I'm pretty sure it's 49ers. But either way, they beat the 49ers recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this Bengals team is back. Joe Burrow is back. They didn't really even use Jamar Chase much. He was probably shut down by the Bills on purpose. But I mean, T. Higgins went off. The rest of the offense flourished. Joe Mixon had 2 touchdowns. I mean, this Bengals team is pretty good. I think the Bills are right now. They're actually not in the playoffs. Interesting to note. 5-4, not in the playoffs. This is a Super Bowl contending team. They probably came in with the best odds to win it all. 5-4. Oof.
I mean, going forward in the AFC, do you see? I mean, the Bills. I feel like you'd feel like it's a given that they're a playoff team, but do you feel like they're definitely a playoff team? I mean, how do you feel like the rest of their season is going to go?
I mean, I'm actually looking at their schedule now. They play Broncos, Jets, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Patriots, Dolphins. That's a very tough schedule. I could see them I mean, the Broncos just beat the Chiefs, but I could see them. They should beat the Broncos. Hopefully they can handle the Jets this time. I mean, who knows? The Eagles are gonna be tough. The
Yeah.
Chiefs are gonna be tough. I don't see them really winning those. Cowboys could even be tough. Chargers, I could see that being a good game. And then Patriots, they need to beat them, but they just lost to them. I mean, I don't really know. It's gonna be. I wouldn't be surprised if they missed out.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see Josh Allen. I mean, MVP candidate coming into the season, and I feel like the Bills are just one of those teams where it's like they're just keep falling short. It's still, entering week 10, they still have 8 more regular season weeks to go. So, we're saying this now. Maybe they just win out and they're, 13-4 or whatever, and they end up having a great season. But still, just a rough situation for the Bills at the moment. Yeah, Commanders, though, picking up another win. We went to Foxborough. Brian Robinson got in the end zone. Our defense showed up. The Patriots have been kind of like an iffy team anyway this year, but we had just a solid all-around performance. We scraped through. And Sam Howell, I think, probably the biggest, just over the past few weeks, the biggest development really is, I feel like Sam Howell has earned the right to be our quarterback, regardless of, how the rest of this season goes. Obviously they're more likely than not going to end up being a new coach. Depending on whether or not that's Eric Bieniemy, it's like that might influence things. But I feel like Sam Howell's having a great season and is helping us win games. There's no reason to take him out of that position next year.
I agree. I mean, unless he starts choking and starts really making mistakes, I don't see why we can't keep going with him. He's proven enough for this season and the short-term future until we get pieces enough to fill that offense. But then that'll be the real test. But, I mean, I think what you described it well. We scraped through. I mean, we really had the game. We had many opportunities to expand on that lead, and we really didn't. But, I mean, we held on. The defense came through at the end. I'm glad we won, I guess. 4-5. Middle of the pack as per usual, I feel like. But we move on back into the fantasy world. You want to talk about your matchup?
Yeah, I mean, just an unfortunate matchup for me. I went up against the lowly Matt Levin, and he was trying to talk trash in the group chat. I didn't already say this was going to be a tough matchup. I gave him his respect, but he just couldn't see through that. I lost. It was not the greatest matchup for me. I'm going to blame this L on Michael Thomas, and solely Michael Thomas. He's the only reason that I lost. If I started Demario Douglas or Madison, I would have won. K-Botton was a great pickup for me, and I'm really glad. I'm probably just going to keep him on my bench now, just as another piece, having him and Laporta. I mean, Laporta's the clear starter for me, but An came out there and got 2 touchdowns for me. He's the main reason I was so close in that game. Jalen Waddle has been incredibly underwhelming this season. I feel like he's probably been my biggest letdown overall, just because he hasn't, last year he was a top, 15, 20 receiver, and this season he has not replicated that at all. So super disappointing on that end. Matt got the Browns defense against Arizona. Brutal. Couldn't do anything about that. And Njoku picked up a touchdown late in that game. Gus Edwards, oh my gosh. So undeserving. That was such a Matt, only Matt could have a performance like that, where Edwards does nothing on the ground all game, but he vultures those 2 touchdowns from 2 yards out. It's super frustrating.
Classic Matt love.
Yeah, I was classic Matt win, and it's fine. It's fine. I'm still above him in the rankings, so nothing changed after this week, but disappointing to lose. And I mean, we'll get into the standings, but makes the next few weeks a lot more meaningful for the middle of the pack group.
And then, I mean, tough week for me, too. We both took L's to Matt's, unfortunately. But, I mean, my team just had a really tough week. I mean, I think even Matt's team kind of struggled, and he put up 110, which is pretty solid. But this has by far been my worst week of the season. I mean, I think it's important to note that McCaffrey is out, who is arguably my best player, and he dropped 20 a game. So I mean, A.J. Dillon for McCaffrey, that's a 16-point difference right there. I mean, that just makes this a lot closer right off the bat. Justin Herbert struggled. Goddard got hurt. DJ Moore didn't really do much. I mean, I think my team just kind of had a bit of an off week, but they should bounce back, hopefully, this week. But again, I kind of see another tough week. I think all our teams, we kind of talked about this before the podcast, but all the teams in this league are pretty much in it or have good teams, even if they're 2-7, like Alex. I think he has a good team. I think any team could really be a playoff contender if they made it, but we'll just have to see how this playoff hunt shakes down.
Yeah.
Congrats to Matt Cohen on that dub.
I know. And I mean, looking at your team, though, I feel like, Taysom Hill on your bench, I feel like is such a great replacement for Goddard for you, even though he's out. That's like, nice to know you have someone else there. And definitely with McCaffrey back, I think you'll even out, but to have this one go to Matt, just have that head-to-head matchup go away, and now you guys have the same record, that, making things a lot closer for everyone.
Is it points for the
I think points for is the tiebreaker, but
okay. I'm still on because I'm still on top of him right now in the standings, as we will see soon. But yeah, we could look around the scores around the league. As we mentioned, we both lost to Matt, so they grabbed those dubs. Sammy took down Ian. They both are now 4-5. Fraudulent Joel 5-4. Taking down Yusuke. Yusuke is struggling.
But I think regardless of Joel's team dropping 140, still a fraudulent Joel victory because Yusuke only scored 63. Like, he would have won no matter what. This win doesn't really mean much, but crazy to see him put up those numbers. And then Adwin.
I mean, it's crazy. And then Adwin picking up that win, 4-5.
Adwin's been on a little run recently. Like, Adwin and Sammy, they were lower down to, like, start off with, but they've both won. They're both winning, putting up big numbers. Like,
they're both bottom of the table at the very beginning. I feel like Alex was more in it than them, but
I know, and now it's.
I mean, now record-wise, it's unfortunate, but let's take a look at those standings.
Yeah. Jacob's still sitting.
Still
sitting
in
first place.
On top, so luckily my points were up by 55, even though I dropped one of my worst scores of the season this year. Playoff chance still 99. Still haven't clinched yet. I think I'm me and Matt are about a win away.
Yeah, I feel like next week both of you will clinch.
If we win. Knock on wood. There we go. I mean, Joel, look at him. Look at third place. I'm not going to put the fraudulent there right now. I mean, he could pick up another win. I think he's looking solid for the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, all those teams at 4-5 is pretty wild. All around 57 to 40%. They're all in it. This week is massive, as you said. Statement week is a great way to describe it.
I know. I don't know if we've ever had a time where, like, 6 teams in our league at the same record at this far into the year is huge. And Joel is only one game out of that. Unfortunately, Alex kind of seems like the only one who, I mean, unless he wins out, there isn't really a clear path to him getting to the playoffs. But everyone else is just a win or two away. And even next week, some teams are going to drop, obviously, but still only a game back of the rest of the playoff spots. I think the points.
Keep going.
I was going to say, I think the points scored is going to be a really big, that is going to mean a lot more just in terms of the tie breaks there, because a lot of teams are going to be within a game or two of each other, and that's going to end up determining a playoff spot for sure.
And yeah, you're looking good on that front. And I will say, just want to point this out on that front exactly. Look at Alex's points for, and compare that to Joel. This was brought up in the group chat earlier. I mean, is that not a little fraudulent? Like,
it's kind of fraudulent.
Last place. I think Alex actually has a good team.
He does.
He just had unfortunate matchups, as you can see. His points against is pretty high, one of the highest in the league. But Yeah, we'll see. I'm going up against him this week. A little nervous about that, but we'll get into these matchups right now.
Yeah, so this week I'm going up against Ian. He still hasn't. He picked up Baker Mayfield this week, so he hasn't put him in his lineup yet. But that's another. I think he's projected for like 16 or 17. So I'm still, projected for more than Ian total, but it's gonna end up being close. I guess he doesn't have his kicker in either, so Zier for that. So it'll end up being pretty close. We'll be evens just about on the projected totals. But I feel pretty good about my matchups this week. I think Goff and Laporta coming back is going to be big for me. I have ETN back. I think Jonathan Taylor's workload is just going to keep ramping up. Demario Douglas is someone who I feel good about starting. I think he's with Kendrick Bourne's ACL. I was going to say his ACL's gone. He's not playing anymore. He's done for the year. So I feel like he's the main target in that Patriots offense. So he's going to be, regardless of how inconsistent it is, he's going to be getting some level of PPR value. He's not going to get 0 points like Michael Thomas did last week. That's my hope. Chuba Hubbard as well. He did all right last week. He's pretty clearly the starting running back in that offense. I am just being hopeful. It's like the same thing with Alexander Mattison with him, and getting closer to the game, I might end up switching for Mattison. I'm still 50-50 there. Still interested in trading whoever at this point. I feel like Justin Jefferson being out and Justin Jefferson being out still and Waddle just being inconsistent, I need to acquire some type of better option before we hit the postseason. But Chuba's a solid option. I'm fine with him. The Saints defense, I've started them every week this year. I'm not going against them at this point. They're 5th ranked in the league. I feel pretty comfortable with them. And I don't know. I just feel good about my matchups this week. I think I am in a solid spot. We're both 4-5. A win this week brings me back to 500, pushes Ian down a game. This is
big match for you.
Huge matchup. And above anything, even if I don't win, I just got to put up points. I need to have I think that's really focused on trying to put myself in a position to just put up as many points as possible so that I'm not falling behind on the points for, because I'm gonna be needing that tie break, I'm feeling like. So I want to make sure I'm in a good position there.
You really have some good running back, depth and starters. It's pretty wild. You're 4-5.
The Miles Sanders thing, the Miles Sanders Hubbard thing is probably my biggest disappointment of the season, behind drafting Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm sure we'll talk about that again, but having the Panthers backfield be so whatever has been really disappointing. But your matchup, I guess you were talking about it's iffy for you. Against Alex, he's been putting up points. He's projected for a lot of points this week. How are you feeling?
I'm honestly not too confident. I mean, I've hated the projections they've had all year. I've been projected to lose a lot of my matches coming in, earlier in the year at least. Not as much now. But, I mean, I'm a little worried. I don't have A.J. Brown. He's been arguably my best player next to McCaffrey. I'm very happy I do have McCaffrey back. But I really need Herbert to put up some numbers this week. I need Mixon to continue to put up numbers. I'm really excited about DJ Moore this week going up against Carolina. That should be a revenge game. He should be able to put up some numbers against one of the worst teams in the league. We'll see. But I'm excited for that. Then Mike Evans. I like him. He's been putting up around 10 a game. I'm not too sure if I want to keep him. Kind of on the trade block, I think. Still deciding there. But he's the starter for right now. I don't really have too many good depth receivers, so I'm going to put him in. But then Taysom Hill, as you mentioned, I'm very excited about that. So, yeah, looking forward to this week. Alex has a really good team. I wouldn't be surprised if I lost. If I lose, I really want Joel to lose. That's all I really care about, and ideally Matt too to lose, Matt Cohen. But we'll
both
see
Matts,
what happens.
Honestly,
both Matts, yeah, they could both take a L.
Yeah,
I would not care. Matt Levin lost.
All right, so going into over-unders from last week, we had a pretty solid week, I feel like, overall, or at least on my matchup. Devontae Smith ends up going over his 10.8 points, so we both made that prediction there. You know, good for both of us. Chuba Hubbard, I feel like we've had back-to-back ones. We had Tyreek before, like, super close. He was like 0.2 or 0.3 under, and we all said over. Chuba Hubbard goes in the right direction for us. We both say over. He picks up 8.7 on his 8.5 projection, and we end up, you know, both getting points for that. So 2 for 2 on my matchup.
Yep. And then, as you can see, not as good for me in this matchup. I mean, I was right about Taylor Swift, though. I will say that. You did say she wasn't going to be there. Or you said she was going to be there.
No, I said she was going to be there and he was going to be bad, yes.
I said the opposite. I said she wasn't going to be there, but he'd go over. And, I mean, he really had a bad performance. He put up, like, 3 catches, something like that, 2 points in fantasy, 3 points in fantasy. Yeah. He struggled. But, you know, they still won, which was kind of surprising with him producing nothing. But
I think
Anthony got that right.
I think Noah Gray finished with, like, their backup tight end finished with a better game than Kelsey did, which is, like, interesting.
Did he get 15.6? Because if so, I think we should count that as my over.
I think it's because that Taylor, you know, wasn't present there in Frankfurt with him. That's why he played so poorly.
It's proving to be a real thing.
You know, I think we need to take this into account now going forward.
And then last one, A.J. Dillon. I mean, 6.8 really is not many points. We both thought he'd at least get near that number, around 6, and he got 3.7, I believe. Not a good game there for the Packers. I mean, they somehow beat the Rams. Kind of boring game all around, I'm not going to lie. But, you know, the Packers got it up. Good for them.
You had to have been mad after A.J. Dillon last week because you just dropped him. You said, no more A.J. Dillon.
I like the guy, too. I've met him. Like, he's a good guy. He's been producing for me the last few weeks, but
said enough.
I honestly don't have much depth, like roster spots on my bench. So sorry, AJ.
You said 3.7 and done.
Thanks for producing for a couple weeks. Anyways, so we can add that to the score. You're catching up, man.
I know.
I was up by a few.
This next week,
I'm only up by 1.
I'm feeling good about this week. I feel like this next one I might overtake the lead. It might be time. I'm feeling it.
Good decisions. Here, you start this one off. I was talking about this before, actually. I'll start this one off. So.
Yeah. This is your
DJ Moore against Carolina. Unfortunately, it's in Chicago, not Carolina. If it was in Carolina, I thought he'd go even more over. But since it's in Chicago, I still think he's going to go over 10.2. This is a revenge game. I think he's a guy that's definitely going to make an effort to contribute. This is one of the worst teams in the league. 10.2 is not much. Even with Tyson Bagent, he really only needs to get 5-6 catches and ideally like 10 to 20 yards a catch, which he usually gets. So I think their offense will be able to move the ball with Deontay Foreman, and I think they'll be able to pass it too with DJ Moore. I think they're going to get him involved. Ideally a touchdown, and if he gets a touchdown, this is going over easily. So I'm going to take that over. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and this is a game time decision because this game is going to be starting in a little bit now. But I feel like I want to like make different decisions than you so I can try to catch up to your score. I don't know. I mean, just looking at DJ Moore, I want to like check his recent games because I do think he should be going over. But he has a few games where he's just been above. I mean, the last 4 games, he hasn't gotten above 10 points. He's only gotten single digits. I do think Bagent's a solid option at quarterback. But, you know, just looking at this, I'm going to go with the under. I feel like DJ Moore has a fairly touchdown-dependent, like, game. I mean, you think about a lot of his big matchups, the one against Washington, got 3 touchdowns. Like
Thursday night game.
Exactly. Another Thursday night game, to be fair. But I feel like that's what a lot of his game is relying on. And I think this game could just be a stinker. Like, the Panthers and Bears are 2 bad teams. Maybe this is the game where Bryce Young, like, I don't know. I don't see DJ Moore taking off on this one, so I'm gonna go under. Maybe I'm just trying to justify it so I can have a different pick than you, but under on DJ Moore.
I don't think it's honestly the more I think about it, it's not super bold. It's not bold. Like it's a fair reasoning to go under. But this one I'm gonna make you go first. George Kittle, over under 8.7.
Kittle's like a difficult one for me because I've had him for multiple years and he always disappoints me. Jacksonville's their defense, I feel like overall they've just been poor. Kittle had his breakout game last week, picked up 149 yards. Like he's starting to pick up steam in that offense, and I think Purdy, is a reliable. I feel like Purdy just needs a safety blanket like that. I think once Kittle gets going, once he's healthy, and once he's got momentum going in the season, that's when he's at his best. So as long as he doesn't get injured, as long as he doesn't, pull a calf or a hamstring or something, I'm gonna go with the over for George Kittle here against Jacksonville.
Good choice. I honestly, this is a tough one. I think with Debo being back, Jacksonville's been solid this year, especially defensively. I think I could see this being a pretty low-scoring game, but as you said, he is becoming Brock Purdy's safety blanket. So 8.7 really isn't that many points. I could see him going over that. Again, I want to be different from you, but I'm in the lead right now, so I can afford to be the same as you. So I'm gonna go over as well. I think he should be able to get a touchdown, or if not, at least pick up the yards and receptions to get 8.7 points. You want to start off your matchup?
Yeah, I know my answers to these two already. Saquon is under for me easily. He's without Daniel Jones now. Rest in peace to his ACL as well. I feel like there just isn't really, they're going to have to give Saquon touches, obviously, but Dallas is good. Like, their defense is good. And Saquon hasn't had a phenomenal year. He was hurt for a few games. The Giants team is just not doing well. Can't really envision Saquon. It's interesting. I was reading something about it earlier today where the running back market, you think about all the guys who, like Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cook, Saquon, you could even say Miles Sanders, kind of. All four of those guys, it was like kind of a saga with them this offseason, or like something like it was a meaningful thing, their contract situations. And all four of them have underperformed significantly from what they did last year. Saquon is right in that boat. His team's underperforming too, and doesn't mean that he's any worse. And I feel like he'll probably end up, I would like to see him leave the Giants next season just to, be a part of somewhere else and try to see what he can do in more of a functional offense and team. But I don't see him getting over 14.6 against Dallas this week, so I'm gonna go under.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with everything you said, so I'm not even going to repeat it. But I want to say I picked this line because I thought 14.6 is way too high against Dallas. I don't know if ESPN Fantasy is seeing something different that I'm not seeing, but they put up 0 points against Dallas. And then Dallas just lost to the Eagles. They really need this win more than anything. They're going to come out firing. And as you mentioned, the Giants they're playing a third-string QB, fourth-string QB. What do you want to... DeVito? Who's their backup?
He wasn't in fantasy. When DeVito's first game, he wasn't in ESPN. He was an unavailable player. They didn't even know who he was.
That's wild. And they still think that offense will do well enough for Saquon to do 14.6 points.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or get near that line. I think a fair... What do you think a fair line would be? We're both going under, so what do you think a fair line would be? I'm just curious. This doesn't affect
I'm just
anything,
referencing Alex Madison has like a 11.3 line. I feel like Saquon deserves more than that, so I would give him like a 12, like somewhere in 12. Like low 12, like 12,
really?
like 4, 5, like 12, 3, 4.
That's still pretty high in my opinion. I was thinking
lower?
Like 7, 8, 7, 8, like max 8. Like
you send him to Najee Harris numbers. That's how low we.
I could just see the
Saquon might as well just get cut. For this week in particular, I think just because it's Saquon,
I guess they're gonna run it every play though.
Yeah,
so
like they kind of have to. but 14 is too high though. They're not going to score. Like I
14
don't really.
way
Maybe
too
they
high.
do score. Like I don't know. I don't. Unless Saquon finds
I don't
the
see him
end
getting
zone,
near 100 yards.
he would have to find the end zone multiple times. I feel like, or just get a lot of receptions. But I don't see either one of those things happening. So
Anyways, another I kind of think easy pick too. I think you mentioned this too.
yeah,
Jared Goff against a shaky Chargers defense. I think we're probably going to be on the same page with this one again, and I hate to steal your thunder, but I'm going to go over here with Jared Goff. I
Yeah.
mean, 16.2, I'm
that's
sure he's been averaging like 20 for him. Like,
16.2 is a crazy line for Goff against the Chargers.
Detroit's been good offensively, and they're going to keep cooking, especially against the Chargers team that's really not been that good. They looked good against the Jets because it's the Jets and they have Zach Wilson, but I don't think they're going to do that again. They're not going to do back-to-back performances like that. Detroit's going to come out firing, so
Yeah, no,
I'm going over there.
Yeah, it's easy over there. Goff's been averaging 17 points a game this year. So, for this to be his line against the worst passing defense in the league is crazy to me. And on top of that, they're coming out of their bye week. They've had an extra week to prepare for the Chargers. They are exactly what you said. They're gonna come out firing against the Chargers, and it's gonna be a really solid offensive performance from them. I feel like Goff has been efficient all year. He hasn't thrown more than one interception in a game. He's finding the end zone. He's gotten a few rushing touchdowns as well. He just provides so much fantasy value. He is the Kirk. He's my Kirk Cousins this year. I feel like he's the Kirk Cousins of fantasy this year. Just consistent, and you know what you're getting out of him. And if nothing else, he's going to give you upside there, which is so important. So for 16.2, I'm taking the over all day there.
Definitely. I think this could be a shootout too, and that only helps his case.
Yeah.
So. Anyways, we got some waiver wire picks for you. It's big week, as we said, statement week. I mean, I got Keaton Mitchell on here on the left. I mean, this dude was fast. I mean, he kind of exploded. He had 100-something yards. I can't remember the exact number, but it was pretty high. Had a touchdown. I know they have Gus Edwards. They have Justice Hill. Justice Hill. I mean, this team could use – this guy feels almost like a Devin on chain. This team could use a guy like him. And if he doesn't get hurt, like most Ravens running backs tend to do, I could see him kind of carving out a role there, and at least as a pass option, a third down option maybe, at least getting picking him up if you can. There's only upside with him. You might not do anything this week, but at least stashing him is worth it in my opinion.
Yeah. And then mine, he's on my team already. He put up numbers for me last week, and I feel like he's probably on waivers in a lot of leagues still. But K. Botton, the last few weeks, he's been getting a lot of targets in that offense, and this past week finding the end zone twice. He's in his second year now, and he's really starting to come on and develop a lot more. I think the Bucs offense Baker's just in that tier of quarterback where I think similar to Mac Jones, where they just need that safety blanket. They need to have someone who's going to be over the middle, just available. I mean, every quarterback needs one, but when you're not as efficient, when you're, maybe more turnover prone or not doing as well, those tight ends are going to get a lot of targets. And in the red zone, it's going to matter even more. I think going forward this season is pretty reliable option and is worth picking up if you're just streaming tight end, and especially as he continues to develop and maybe gets more targets, he's going to be a reliable option. Yeah, and then
best matchups. He started off.
Yeah, I would say it's my over/under. This is an easy one. I see Goff getting a cool 22, a cool 22, 23 this week. He's gonna shred the Chargers. I feel so good about that. David Montgomery is back this week, so maybe that's an interesting thing. How maybe do they push the run game a bit more with Montgomery and Gibbs? How is that, dynamic end up impacting the passing game? But I don't see a reason for them coming out of this bye week against such a poor passing offense for Goff to not be someone who's throwing, 200, 250 and and 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like I think he's set up for a really good week this week, and I'm excited to see what he does coming out of the bye week. I gotta knock on wood. I'm saying all of this, and he's gonna end up dropping like 3 points or something. He'll get hurt early in the game, but I feel really good about Goff going into this week.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And mine, I put them up here as the best matchup before, but Cowboys defense, man. I talked about this game before. Their best performance of the season was against the Giants when they put up 35 and shut them out. 35 in fantasy and shut them out. Like, I only see them doing at least that right now in this game where they just lost to the Eagles. They need to prove themselves. That they're talking the talk on ESPN. I don't know if you heard that, but they're saying, "Oh, we feel confident after that game."
Now they gotta
prove it. I mean, they're going to come out proving it. If not, if they lose to the Giants or anything less than dominating them, people are going to come questioning them, and they know that the nation's team apparently. So
America's team.
America's team. My bad. America's team. America. But yeah, I really chose them though because a lot of my other players had tough matchups this week. I thought DJ Moore could have been my best matchup. Really depends how that game goes. Could be, you did mention it could be a stinker. It's definitely possible. It's the two of the worst teams in the NFL, so we'll see how it goes. But he's a beast. He's a Maryland guy. I'm excited to see what he does against the team that drafted him. So we will see.
Yeah, that's all we got for this week. Like I said, it's heading into Thanksgiving time, so we'll talk to you guys soon. I don't know exactly when, but
ideally before the playoffs or around the playoffs.
Yes, definitely.
We'll be back before then.
Yes, back before the playoffs. Hopefully we have wins this week going forward. It's a big few weeks that are coming up. So, at the end of this, I'm sure you will probably have clinched by then. It'll just be a matter of first and second for you, like if you're getting a bye week or what bye week you're getting. And then for me, it's going to be like, am I making the playoffs? So
it's going to be a battle.
Yeah, I know. We'll see how it goes, and we'll talk to you all again soon.